great to talk to you. Congratulations on the film.
Thank you very much.
You have the most beautiful shots in this movie.
I was told it's not a visual film, but thank you.
No, it is, but it really is. I mean, there are shots that any other director probably wouldn't have worried about what the background is or making it look beautiful, but it really does. Tell me about location scouting and how important that is to you.
It's almost everything on a film like this. And I think one of the briefs that earlier they said, oh, this is supposed to be set in upstate New York. And then they said, well, the money works in New Orleans. And I just said, if you go to one place and try to make it look like the other, you end up with very generic stuff. And this, do you want it to be? It's okay, because the script is strong enough. They said, no, we would like a little bit of a cinematic touch. And I said, great, then let's go, let's move the Muhammad to the mountain. So I just said, let's move down to New Orleans. So we went down there and we based it in New Orleans. Then it's always okay. It's just like if you tell somebody, go to Budapest, but make it look like Glendale, you're going to end up with what you end up with.
So New York was in the script, but for tax reasons, we went to shoot.
Oh, no, it was in New York and upstate.
Oh,
so I just said set it up in New York and New Orleans, because it makes sense. If a guy wants to party before he's shipped out for life, where do you want to go? New Orleans or Vegas? And I said, Vegas. Even I would have a hard time making it look good.
Tell me about casting Ryan Reynolds and Sir Ben Kingsley in this sort of dual role.
Well, Sir Ben, I wish we had had access to him earlier. It's just absolutely phenomenal. But we had started with Ryan because I just thought if there's a body that you want to go into and you kind of want to look great, you want to look like something that, like Mad Men were designed, from the advert. So I just said, who looks, just great, but doesn't look like a supermodel like that and still can give the performance and everything. And it was Ryan Reynolds all along. So we went for Ryan Reynolds, and we said, now we reverse engineer and try to see who do you buy going into that position. And of course, nobody beats Sir Ben.
Yeah,
and it was reverse engineered.
And I loved his characterization. I mean, you just saw this sort of New York, almost Trump-esque kind of guy.
Oh,
right?
My God, glad you mentioned it. That's Trump's house in the beginning.
Oh, is it really?
It is. He was very nice to us. He gave it to us in the last second, all 3 locations that I was interested in started to flay around. And Trump came along, and he said, and I looked at his place, and because I was going for first classic architecture. And when I looked at that, I just said, no, if you think of Sir Ben Kingsley as more like the Shah of Iran, if he had a lot of money, where would he be? He might, design really, static stuff, but where he lives can actually be really loud. So it kind of went into the Shah's territory. And I think my production designer went and saw that place, and he said, you got to see it because it looks like Versailles in the sky, is what he said. And immediately, I think Donald Trump said, I'm going to use that.
That's amazing. The visual effects that you used for the delusions that Ryan's character is having, can you talk about those effects?
They were very rudimentary. In this particular one, I was I'm kind of known for a guy who puts, if you ask every critic, the cart before the horse, and they always say, go for the visual, and you won't go for that. I said, okay, there's no visuals in this. I look at something that costs $3-4. So it just has to be, I didn't want to go too psychedelic. So I just thought, okay, something in between that is just informative and just keep it, non-cinematic, because the rest of the film is cinematic.
Absolutely.
So I actually went not for surreal. I had one setup in it that was quite surreal and beautiful. And of course, the studio and everybody went, what's that doing in there? And I went, yeah, you're right, doesn't fit. So we took it out. So everything is kind of just, nobody can really tell you later on what they saw in their head. So it's just whatever cinema realism people are used to.
That last thing I want to ask you real quick. The scene in the pool with Ryan Reynolds and the little girl, was that a lot of him improvising the lines, or was that scripted?
It was with both of them. It was just, I think, Ryan didn't want to come out of the pool. He wanted to get this much in once he took his clothes off, because he has, I think he just wanted to get in there and not come out. I think he was shy about a few tattoos. But he was phenomenal once he got in, and I just said, nobody will see these tattoos. And I just said, sit here and you do what you want, and I will find the lines from within there, because the plot is very rudimentary. Where they sit down, it needs to kind of go where it's going. It's just that the two of them get along. So she threw a line in, I think he threw a line in, how's the water? And she said room temperature, which you don't expect a 6-year-old to say. So he kind of blurted out, and that broke the ice, and we just used it like that. So it was only, I think we shot it in about that sitting sequence in about 10 minutes. But I kind of knew it just had to look like it didn't fit the rest of the film. Yeah. It's a guy who's really uptight is suddenly just let go by the girl.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great talking to you. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much.